Please welcome ALEC Chief Executive Officer Lisa B. Nelson.
Wow. I love that walk-up music. Gets me going. Hello and welcome to our final day of the American Legislative Exchange Council State and Nations Policy Summit. Thank you so much to our Texas delegation. Woo! Y'all have really gone way above and beyond. This year, the Texas delegation has broken the SNPs record for attendees, for sponsors. Yes, you beat Utah and you beat Florida. They always think they're number one, right, Demi? We are so grateful for that Texas hospitality, and it has been such a joy to be here this week. This year, ALEC has been proud to join the America 250 Civics Education Coalition, a nationwide effort led by the Department of Education Secretary Linda McMahon, America First Policy Institute, Turning Point USA, and more than 40 other national and state-based organizations. Together, this coalition will strengthen civic education, inspire patriotic pride, and prepare Americans of all ages to celebrate our nation's 250th anniversary next year. Unfortunately, too many Americans lack a basic understanding of our great nation's true history, its founding documents, the principles that have sustained us for more than 2 centuries, and ALEC has been hard at work to fix this. We developed the model policy, American Civics and History Act, which requires public school students to take courses that cover U.S. history, our U.S. history, American civics, and U.S. state government, and makes all instructional materials used in social science courses available online for parents to review. We are also producing our monthly video series featuring legislators sharing the history of their states and their founding, focusing on the 13 original colonies. Keep an eye on my monthly CEO update as we continue to debut these videos. All of this will culminate at the 2026 annual ALEC meeting. We'll celebrate the leadership of America's states and unveil a bold vision for the next 250 years of liberty and innovation. And now I would like to acknowledge someone who has shown an unparalleled dedication to restoring civic knowledge, inspiring patriotism, and renewing a shared understanding of our founding principles in the classrooms and across the nation. For her exceptional leadership, ALEC is proud to honor Erica Donalds with the American Civics and History Award. Erica is a passionate education advocate, activist, and entrepreneur dedicated to expanding school choice and improving education quality. As the founder and CEO of the Education Freedom Foundation, supports parental empowerment, accountability in the public classroom, creating pathways for high-quality, flexible schooling options that meet diverse student needs. Her advocacy for education reform highlights her commitment to transforming education for the benefit of all children. There is no one working harder to improve our civics education as we approach America's 250th birthday. Please give me a warm welcome and congratulations to Erica Donalds.
Lisa, thank you so much. This is such an honor and really unexpected in terms of my trajectory in advocacy for education. Many of you perhaps have heard my story, but I was in financial services for 20 years. I had no thought of being in politics or involved in advocacy or getting an award for civic education. But I do have 3 beautiful boys. And like many of you and all of the parents who you serve, I care the most about them achieving the American dream that my husband and I have been so fortunate to take advantage of ourselves, mostly because we were able to get an education that prepared us to work hard, to make sacrifices, and to achieve. And we did not buy into any messaging that we were victims. We bought into the messaging that Americans, when you work hard, when you take advantage of the opportunities that the great capitalist society that we have here has given to us and the vision of our founding fathers, you can do better for your children than your parents were able to do for you. You can innovate. You can bring to the table things that have not been done before, like the world's first virtual reality school, where students can go to ancient Rome and learn from the greatest minds in history. And so we were able to do those things. But when our children went to the traditional public school system, I found out that one size doesn't fit all. And I needed school choice to help my children find their pathway to the American dream. And when I started talking to my friends and neighbors, like many of you have, I found out that many of them needed school choice to help their children achieve the American dream. And so I started on a journey of starting some classical charter schools. I got very passionate about the great books and high quality curriculum that doesn't just teach the skills of reading and math, but actually gives our children the content knowledge that they need to understand America and its place in the history of the world, and not just know facts or dates, but why. Why is America the very best experiment in the world's history? And I want them to know all about the other experiments that are out there and why they have failed, and why America is the envy of the world and where everyone wants to come to achieve this wonderful American dream that we believe in. And in the process of starting all of these schools, talking to all of these parents, I found that a great influence on our ability to exercise education freedom is all of you, state legislators, state leaders, people who are making decisions at the state level that impact not just what's being taught in the classroom, but parents' ability to impact what is being taught in the classroom. And so I do want to commend ALEC, all the wonderful work that's being done here to help achieve transparency for parents when it comes to their curriculum, to expand education freedom in the states, because ultimately I believe that, yes, it's important for our students to be able to read proficiently, and we're all working very hard on increasing that. But if they do not understand the history of this nation, the founding principles of America, and how to defend the rights that they are given in our Constitution, they may as well not be able to read at all. And so that is the number one goal that we have as people who advocate for a great education for the next generation of Americans. And every one of you, I appreciate you doing your part in that. And thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this movement as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so great to have you at the helm at AFPI and in the leadership for the coalition. We just really appreciate it, Erica. I would like to bring up Dr. Tom Oliverson now, who Texas legislator, to lead us in a prayer. And then everybody, please enjoy your lunch. We have an amazing program to continue with after lunch.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you today in my home state of Texas on behalf of the National Association of Christian Lawmakers. The National Association of Christian Lawmakers is a 50-state organization that I was blessed to be asked to help start in 2020. We stretch from Maine to Alaska and all the way down to Hawaii, and we focus on God, we focus on country, and we focus on all of the things that keep us free, and keep this country pointed in the direction that it needs to be, which is pointing straight up to our Heavenly Father. So if you'll join me in a word of prayer. Father God, thank you so much for this opportunity to come together as friends, as colleagues. We're so grateful and so humbled by your great gift of this nation, and especially our freedoms, and especially our freedom to worship you and to offer prayer to you. And Lord, I just ask that for each person here who has answered the call to serve you by serving their communities, that you would give us clarity of thought, that we would be able to see your will for us, and also give us courage that we may step out in faith and execute faithfully on that which you call us to do. Please be with us this afternoon as we travel home to our families and bring us home safely. And most importantly, Lord, we ask that you bless this food for the nourishment of our bodies. In your Son, Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome ALEC 2025 National Chairman, Texas Senator Phil King.
Thank you. I think he said Texas 2025. I think he actually meant 2015, but that's close enough. Didn't want to step on Patricia there. So, well, this is a real exciting day for me. It's kind of like homecoming day for Texas with Senator Perry and Brooke Rollins and then Maddie Parker, who I'm fixing to introduce at the table. And it's just a joy for me to introduce to you Mayor Maddie. If you've been around Fort Worth this week, you were part of what I think, Maddie, am I right in saying we are the fastest growing major city in the United States? If you walked around the streets and shopped, and I know a lot of you did, particularly went out to the stockyards, and which, by the way, the stockyards actually gets more tourists every year now than the Eiffel Tower. It is an amazing historic and tourism site. But if you walked around those streets and shopped and hung out and went to the restaurants, you know, you didn't see the things that you see in so many of our major cities. You didn't see homeless on the sidewalks, and you didn't see people that made you real uncomfortable. And is it safe for me to be here, even if you're walking around at night? What you saw is a lot of open businesses and a lot of people out walking around and just enjoying the community. And that all is because, as you know, that's because of great leadership. And Maddie Parker is not the only piece of that in Fort Worth. But I want to tell you, as our mayor since 2021, she is a huge part of it. She's been basically a part of my family, and we've been so close. She was a House staffer for a long time, the Texas House, when I was in the House, and then she became my district director, and then she went on to work for Congresswoman Kay Granger, later for Mayor Betsy Price. But she also started an education foundation, and she is so focused on bringing education in Fort Worth to where it should be. She's a wonderful lady. Her husband, David, they have a great family. They are what all of us want, or Maddie is what all of us want our daughters to be. And so with that, Maddie, would you come? I know you just want to give a few words of welcome, but please welcome what I think is the finest, and I know the youngest major city mayor in the United States.
Thank you, Senator King. Always high praise from someone I admire very much. Well, welcome, ALEC, to Fort Worth, Texas. We're so pleased that you're here. It sounds like you've had a great time, and I've seen an uptick in sales tax in the last few days. So we appreciate your tourism in our great city. I hope you all go home with a cowboy hat and a cowboy boots, right? We say Fort Worth is now known as the unexpected city, but it's really not a new slogan. We say unexpected city because the famed actor Jimmy Stewart called Fort Worth the unexpected city back in 1974. So allow me to take you back in time just a minute. He narrated a beautiful video at the time for our city in his great, instantly recognizable voice. At the end of this video, it's about 15 minutes long, he says the following about Fort Worth, Texas. I guess every town has a flavor or personality all its own, but this one seems to have more than most. The people of this city have found a way to live that comes closer to what most of us would like to have more than any place I know. So there it sits, high on a bluff above the Twin Forks of the Trinity River, where it can never lose sight of its past, present, and future forever. So here we are today, ladies and gentlemen, in 2025. And back when Jimmy Stewart said those words, this city was just over 350,000 people. And today, Fort Worth, Texas is now the 10th largest city in our country, the 4th largest city in the state of Texas, passing Austin just the last year. And we're incredibly proud of how far we've come, over 1 million people today. It's my opinion, significant opinion, that really it's never been a better time to be in a place like Fort Worth than today. As I mentioned, as the 10th largest city comes a tremendous amount of responsibility.
But as policymakers across this country, there's a few things I wanted you to know that I think are incredibly important about a well-run city, large city in this country. There's oftentimes so much focus, and understandably so, when you turn on any of your favorite cable news channels to hear the difficulties that large U.S. cities are facing. And while Fort Worth, Texas, believe me, is not perfect, I believe we stand out as a city that's well run. And because of that, people have quite literally voted with their feet to be in this amazing city. We're, of course, a part of DFW, or Fort Worth, Dallas, whichever you want to call it, which is now home to over 8.3 million residents across North Texas. What you may not realize is this region is soon to be the third largest metro region in the country, passing Chicago in the next several years. We understand here in North Texas and in Fort Worth that people and their businesses are quite literally voting with their feet to come to Texas. And candidly, my phone has rung more in the last week of what I'm now calling the Mondami effect from New Yorkers that are trying to flee to come to a place like Fort Worth. I've told this story several times, but I really had to laugh. It was almost 2 years ago when Mayor Eric Adams had a big publicity stunt, and every member of the media in New York Market was there. And all he did was haul brand new trash cans, trash receptacles to the curb in New York City and put a trash bag into the trash receptacle. You would have thought they had cured cancer. Fort Worth, Texas had trash receptacles back in 1990. I'm not understanding why it was such a big deal. But these are the things we can joke about them, but as policymakers, you understand them very well. What it looks like to run a state efficiently, what it looks like to run a city, you have to focus on quality of life and the basics. As Phil mentioned, we do have a great tourism industry, and the Fort Worth Stockyards is a great example of that. Over 11 million people, yes, more than the Eiffel Tower, are visiting the Fort Worth Stockyards every single year. Our cultural district, our award-winning zoo. I hope that you've had a chance to see all these things. And of course, our beautiful downtown, anchored here by the Omni Hotel. But in closing, I'll just make a reminder. As mayor, it's a full-time job, believe me. You're never quite out of the circus or the hurricane. But I'm reminded every single day that things that really matter in policymaking are those things I mentioned earlier, quality of life and basics. There's nothing more important to a great city than public safety. And I'm very proud to tell you that our Fort Worth Police Department, which really is the best police department in the entire country, will be the only major city in the country by 2026 to be fully staffed as a department, which is an incredible accomplishment. Quite frankly, I ran in 2021 to really be a stalwart supporter of public safety and to back the blue. We've been able to do that here in the city of Fort Worth. In closing, thank you, Senator King, for hosting in this amazing city. We could not be prouder to have ALEC. I hear record-making 1,200 people here. That's fantastic. It just means you always need to come back to Fort Worth from here on out. But I do want to share with you, as a young staffer working in the Texas legislature, we often turn to ALEC for great policymaking. It was a wonderful place for me to learn when I was 22 and 24, each of those sessions, to understand what was happening across the country and how Texas could be example. To my Texas legislative members, thank you for your hard work on behalf of our state. I know that you've heard from Lieutenant Governor Patrick and Governor Perry. Oh, excuse me, Governor Abbott as well. But I wanted to I wanted to brag on Governor Perry, who's here today, and he's going to speak next. This state now is the 8th largest economy in the world. But that doesn't happen by accident. It takes incredible leadership. Many of the Texas legislative members are here in the room. Again, our governor and our past governor, Governor Perry, it's always an honor to see you. Thank you for your service to the state of Texas and to our nation. Thank you very much. And also, I'd be remiss, the jewel of Fort Worth right now is our wonderful Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rawns, who will also speak with you. We always remind people she is a Fort Worth girl, ladies and gentlemen, and we could not be prouder. But importantly, I'm from Hyco, Texas. This lady is from Glen Rose, Texas. These two women grew up 20 minutes apart. I think we turned out just fine, didn't we? Yeah, awesome. God bless each of you. Thank you for serving this amazing country and making it great, and enjoy Fort Worth, Texas while you're here. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage ALEC board member, Iowa Speaker Pro Tem, John Wills.
Oh, what a great looking group. Thank you all for being here today. This year, ALEC launched the Veterans and Military Affairs Task Force to bring together state legislators, veterans organizations, and private sector leaders to develop trusted policy solutions to improve the life, promote economic opportunity, and facilitate smooth transition for veteran service members and their families. For a startup task force, we've done all right, but we're still looking for additional private and public sector members to join our task force. In fact, we're looking to expand in a big way. But led by some dedicated chairs with firsthand military experience, the task force focuses on tackling real challenges faced by our military community, including mental health support with models like our Veterans for Mental Health Innovations Act. This act authorizes states to join a multi-state consortium to conduct clinical trials using ibogaine, overseen by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, to study its potential as an investigational new drug for treating several challenging conditions. These include post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, opioid use disorder, traumatic brain injury, and other neurological or mental health issues where ibogaine shows promise. The Reason Foundation, who is kindly sponsoring today's discussion and meal, is doing great work leading the way in making this groundbreaking treatment accessible to veterans. I'm thrilled that states are leading the way in studying this promising treatment, as our former Texas Governor Rick Perry and CEO of Americans for Ibogaine, Brian Hubbard. These two have become the leading voices on the issue of ibogaine as treatment for PTSD disorders, helping thousands of veterans. I'd like to introduce and bring up Mr. Brian Hubbard to start off, and then Governor Perry will be next. Thank you.
I hope it's all right if I improvise the stage for just about 10 minutes. Let me begin by thanking Board Member and Representative John Willis for the kind introduction, ALEC for the privilege of letting a hillbilly from the mountains of Kentucky walk through y'all's door for lunch for a little while this afternoon. The Reason Foundation, who have been stalwart supporters of everything Governor Perry and I are currently working on, in particular, Lynn Gilroy, Jeff Lawrence, and Greg Ferenstein. I'd also like to thank, above and beyond all those here in this room, the Texas legislators who have helped turn the fulcrum of history. Thank you. Right now, this very minute, scores of U.S. Special Forces veterans and their families are at the end of hope. Multiple prolonged deployments over decades of self-sacrificial service as the tip of the spear for America's unrivaled military might have left them broken in mind, body, and soul. As powerless witnesses to the progressive destruction of these formidable warriors, the families that depend on them are on the verge of implosion. Like legions of our brothers and sisters in arms across the country, these warriors' wounds, seen and unseen, have been met with the machinations of massive government systems which have enthroned themselves on the helplessness of powerless people. The prescribed and cultivated dependence on habituating synthetic pharmacology slowly euthanizes their bodies, anesthetizes their souls, and inflames their desire to die. Like millions of other Americans from all walks of life, these Special Forces veterans and their families have discovered that our government commodifies problems that it is supposed to solve by monetizing sustained human misery.
Right now, this very minute, these veterans are refugees from the land of the free and home of the brave. Among a flood of U.S. special operators who have fled this country through an underground railroad to Mexico to access the only treatment which can save and restore their shattered lives. Ibogaine, the most sophisticated molecule on the planet. According to the Defense and Veterans Brain Injury Center and the RAND's Invisible Wounds of War Project, 480,000 service members have sustained traumatic brain injuries since 2000, and 600,000 more live daily with post-traumatic stress, depression, pharmacological drug dependency, and other silent afflictions which substantially increase their risk of suicide. Deplorably, 24 years of unrelenting, unmerciful warfare have taken exponentially more service member lives here at home by suicide than have been lost on battlefields abroad. Since 9/11, over 30,000 active duty service members and post 9/11 veterans have died by suicide, a number 4 times greater than service members killed during combat over that same time frame. At least 22 veterans commit suicide every day, and at least 140,000 have taken their lives since 2001. Over the last 10 years, 1.5 million Americans have died from a combination of drug overdoses, alcohol-related disease, and suicide, a convergence of lethalities for which our veterans are ground zero. These deaths of spiritual despair exceed the total number of all U.S. soldiers killed in action since 1776. In 2024, researchers at Stanford University published a study in Nature Medicine, a top 3 global medical research journal, confirming that Ibogaine dramatically reduces post-traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, and suicidality while dramatically improving cognitive functioning in veterans with traumatic brain injury. Within 1 month of a single treatment, the participants experienced a nearly 90% reduction in symptomatology. Ibogaine has also shown breakthrough therapeutic results for the resolution of polysubstance use disorders, including opioids and methamphetamine, a substance for which we have no effective treatments for its dependency. Critically, recent scientific studies confirm that Ibogaine uniquely and singularly regenerates significant brain structures, a confirmed phenomenon that is unparalleled in the history of Western science. This newly discovered attribute holds revolutionary promise for the treatment of traumatic brain injuries, Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, Lyme disease, and a host of other incurable neurological conditions which harm and disable the brain. Having recognized that the heart of trauma and addiction is profound spiritual affliction, mighty Texas has committed $50 million to achieve the moonshot of our time, the medicalization of Ibogaine within the United States, in order to serve and exalt the primacy of the human soul for all of our brothers and sisters who are lethally estranged from it. Governor Perry and our team at Americans for Ibogaine are shepherding an emerging vanguard of states who aim to join together to execute one unified FDA drug development trial with Ibogaine as a breakthrough treatment for opioid use disorder, co-occurring substance use disorder, as well as any other mental health or neurological conditions for which it demonstrates efficacy. This is history in the making right now. These states include Alabama, Idaho, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Missouri, Mississippi, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Vermont, and last but not least, Michigan, where, according to State Representative Jamie Green, an individual like Michigan House Speaker Matt Hall exemplifies the kind of determined leadership necessary to make ibogaine a medical reality in America. Governor Perry and I have had the privilege to deliver the ibogaine gospel to millions of Americans since our interview with Mr. Joe Rogan was released on January 2nd of this year. Within the tsunami, and it has been a tsunami, of responses which have flooded my email since, I received this message from Christy and Jeremy Saucier from right here in Hutto, Texas, on the 4th of July. I wanted to follow up on our last message and give Brian our deepest thanks for introducing us to ibogaine. My husband and I completed our treatment, and it was nothing short of a miracle. My husband lost 12 fellow Marines at once due to an IED at the height of the war from 9/11. This man has been plagued for 21 years with post-traumatic stress, survivor's guilt, and alcohol abuse due to this tragic event. This medicine met him with a vision of all the fallen men he knew looking down from heaven and telling him it's okay to grow old. He then saw himself as an old man standing by his buddies' grave sites, honoring them. It was an experience that gave him permission to live the life God intended as a father, husband, and diminished his appetite for alcohol. One treatment has given us our life back. We are devout Christians, and our whole community was behind us going on this journey. I was also inspired by Brian's story of his wife, which led me to receive ibogaine alongside my husband. I have been prescribed heavy-duty antidepressants since I was 18. I felt immediate healing, and at age 43, I am no longer taking any medicine and feel purged from what conventional therapy couldn't do. Ibogaine acted like windshield wipers, cleaning the debris that was blocking our view so that we could finally see where we were going. Praise God for y'all and for this mission that will helpfully change the lives of millions. The Navy SEAL ethos, which is branded into the souls of these spectacular, selfless warriors, says, "My loyalty to team and country is beyond reproach. I humbly serve as a guardian to my fellow Americans, always ready to defend those who are unable to defend themselves. I do not advertise the nature of my work, nor seek recognition for my actions. I voluntarily accept the inherent hazards of my profession, placing the welfare and security of others before my own. For the hundreds of heroic families living behind doors, closed doors, of silent suffering in each one of your districts, they're hoping that your courage will be the answer to their desperate prayers. We best honor their lives by saving them now, by any means necessary. And I am now honored to introduce my friend, mentor, and by blessing of God, second father by choice, former United States Energy Secretary and longest serving governor in the history of mighty Texas, Governor Rick Perry.
I think I'm on. So I will be walking around. So, and taking up a collection before we're through, right? So this is kind of like the Baptist church, Miss Helen. Everybody up on the front row, you're going to have to give something. So, y'all in the back, just, we'll get to you. Brian Hubbard, thank you. What an extraordinary fellow, that I've gotten to know this man and to watch him and work with him. And he's just been this extraordinary talent, one of the brightest people. And I'm so blessed that many of you, as a matter of fact, would everybody that's either in the Texas legislature, has been in the Texas legislature, or wants to be in the Texas legislature, stand up just a second. Stand up, all you Texas legislators. Yeah. Thank you for being here. And the reason I wanted you to see them, because over the course of your gathering here, corner them, talk to them, find out from them, because I know a lot of you are, listen, if you'd told me 6 years ago that Rick Perry and psychedelics is going to be in the same sentence, I might have walked backwards a little bit from you. But the fact is, I want to share a story with you. The last time I spoke to ALEC, if my memory serves me correct, was in 2016. It was in Indianapolis. And I gave a speech about an issue that was filled well, I won't say just as, but almost as conflicting with conservative, hard on crime, tough on crime values as this issue with plant medicine that we're talking about here with Ibogaine. And I'm speaking about criminal justice reform. 20 plus years ago, I had someone, Judge Crusoe, Brooke, you remember Judge Crusoe from Fort Worth, a Democrat district judge, came and talked to me. We were friends. He came and talked to me about these drug courts that they were doing, the way to deal with these people who were having some issues. They had broken the law and they were going to get punished. They were giving them second chances. They were sending them to boot camps. They were sending them to treatment centers. They were giving them a second chance, because what we figured out, Maddie, was that they were not going to prison, which is where people become professional criminals. Giving them that second chance. And the first time I heard that, I was kind of like, get behind me, Satan. I throw them in jail. Throw the key under the jail. We're tough on crime. This is Texas. But I was curious and I was open to the conversation. And I came to the position that in fact was worth a conversation. And we were open to it. We started having conversations. Phil, I think you may have still been in the house at that particular point in time. We had our staff working on it. And the curiosity turned into looking at the data and realizing that this was, in fact, good for the state. Paul, we led the nation in being able to put criminal justice reform into place. And it was because we were courageous. We let the data lead us. We always hear about listen to the science. Well, you know what? We do that. ALEC is such an important organization. And the reach that you have out across these states. The reason I wanted you to see these members is so go talk to them over the course of this meeting. Pick their brain, talk to them, get the data. And I know as sure as God made strawberries that when you look at the data and you recognize that this is a compound that God gave us that is showing extraordinary ability to free people from post-traumatic stress, literally break addictions, And if we've got that in our hands, if we have that, you joined up into your legislative process because you wanted to make a difference in people's lives. The vast majority of you did that. And if that's the reason you're sitting here today, and you know that there is this compound out there that we can treat people with, doing the clinical trials and running it through the process appropriately. And that's what this is really all about and what Texas has put into place. And we need other states to be partners in this. Let federalism reign. If you know that, and you see the data and the science is there, how bad you got to hate somebody to not make this available. That's what I want you to think about. Because this literally, of all the things that I've had the great privilege to work on, and I'm incredibly blessed to be able to impacted people's lives. This one has the most powerful potential. And that's quite a statement. When you think about somebody who's been in public service for 40 years, 6 years as state rep, 8 years as ag commissioner, 2 years as lieutenant governor, 14 years as a governor, and almost 3.5 years as the secretary of energy. This is the most important, impactful thing that I've had the opportunity to be involved with. And my reputation, one of my early political guys, Paul, came up and said, "What in the hell are you doing? Getting involved with this psychedelic stuff?" And I think I thoughtfully laid out the facts and the science and the data. But I said, you know what is more important? Their lives are more important than my reputation. And most of you came into this business recognizing your reputation was at stake here. But I hope your heart and your mind also has that powerful impact of affecting people's lives, literally saving people's lives. There's not a lot of things you can do to get to do that. There's not a lot of professions that you're going to get called into of which you can do that. I happen to think this is it. I hope all of you, I'm going to challenge you to have the courage to join Texas and those other states that Brian listed out so that we have this massive effort all across the country, because you change people's lives, just like ALEC did on criminal justice reform. And that great effect that we had in Texas went on to the national level. There is federal criminal justice reform today because it's something that got started in a state. And to kind of show you how the circle goes around, just like Maddie was Phil King's staffer back in 20 years ago. I had a young lady that walked in my office one day in 1991 with a blue FFA jacket on. She was about 5'10" anyway, and she had that big old beehive of hair. I mean, she looked 6'4" to me if she was an inch. Extraordinary, beautiful, articulate. And I was kind of like, that kid's going somewhere. Well, she did. She went on to the beloved Texas A&M, became the first female student body president in the history of that university. Woo! And Paul, you explain to them what that's all about later. And Then she went to the University of Texas Law School. She graduated the top of her class. She went to work for an extraordinarily well-known law firm right here in the Dallas area. I called her, I think in January of 2001. I said, "Hey, would you consider coming to work with me at the governor's office?" "Oh, Governor, I love you. I got this great job. I'm on short track to partner and, just married. I mean, I love you. Let me think about it." And she did. And she called me back and she said, "You know what? The one thing I would leave this partner track that I'm on in this extraordinary law firm is to come work with you in the governor's office." We had a great team. That young lady ended up being the head of my policy shop and implemented the criminal justice reform that changed Texas forever and in turn changed the nation. Because sitting at Bedminster in 2018 in front of a governor, or I should say, at this case, it was a president with a mindset not unlike mine of like, I'm tough on crime. Y'all go talk to somebody else about this criminal justice reform. Brooke Rollins sat and talked to Donald Trump about why this made sense and how it could put him into a really different place in America by championing this extraordinary criminal justice reform that really making a difference. And here's the data to back it up. As we know today, he went from being, get behind me, Satan, to a proponent. And I will suggest to you that had a powerful impact on the 2024 election results, where people who historically hadn't voted for a Republican conservative were like, you know what? This guy gets us. He understands us. Donald Trump had the courage to do that, but he had the courage because he had really good information and data, and he had a staff person who he trusted, just like I had 20 plus years ago. One of the most extraordinary young people I've ever met in my life. A person who, the day they walked in my office in 1991, I knew there was something different and good about this young lady. She has been an agent of change every place she has put her foot and her extraordinary mind to work. Donald Trump recognized that early on as he made her his domestic policy advisor, and now as his Secretary of Energy, the extraordinary Mrs. Brooke Rollins. Sorry, I'm a little.
Well, that was real special. Oh my goodness. It's hard to follow up on that. What an honor to be here. Rick Perry, I was a 17-year-old small town kid from Glen Rose, Texas. I did have real big hair, but I had real big dreams too in 1991. And you, other than my mom, state legislator, HD 58, Texas legislature, who is here, other than my mom, have had more of an impact on my journey. And to have you here to introduce me, and for everyone to, I think, fully understand the incredible hand that God has on all of us and on our journey, and understanding that it's really not any of our stories, it's God's story. But having you in my life, and that day when I walked in your office, you were that young, dashing ag commissioner, still dashing, by the way, a few decades later, but to have you with my state officer team, and we came in to meet you. You were the first real celebrity we had ever met, any of us, and you were a celebrity, still are. But I remember that day like it was yesterday. So I'm just blessed beyond belief and overwhelmed by gratitude, and so grateful for you. And one thing I want to say, Governor Perry talked a little bit about the criminal justice reform piece, and I'm really proud of that. But that is one of many, 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 many dozens, if not hundreds, of reasons as to why the founders' vision of the laboratories of democracy in our states and your work as the warriors at the front line matters. And while we talked about criminal justice reform, that's amazing. But I so firmly believe, and Rick Perry, you know this, during those 8 years when Barack Obama was president and you were governor, there were only 2 places in the entire country that were creating jobs. One of those was Barack Obama's Washington, D.C., because of the government. The second was the state of Texas under Governor Rick Perry, who created more jobs than every other state combined. That is an amazing, amazing attribute. And again, it goes to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, that vision of the states being the drivers of innovation. And this is why Lisa Nelson, the amazing Lisa Nelson, everyone, we have been partners for a really long time. And this is why every single time Lisa calls over the last 20 years, I always show up to this organization, to ALEC, and to what you stand for, and to who you are. This, I believe, is the single most important organization of elected officials and policy leaders in the country, because what you represent, you are the game changers. You are the reason that we can save this country. So I'll get into that a little bit more. But Rick Perry, what a joy. My amazing mom, who decided at 77 to run for the state legislature, everyone, against a 10-year Republican incumbent, and won by a lot. So what a joy. Our amazing mayor, Maddie Parker, other than, she really is that extraordinary. Other than being a Longhorn, she's really pretty perfect. And I always tell her that, I forget that she went to that school in Austin, especially after Friday night. I'd really like to forget that she went to that school in Austin. Having said that, this is my hometown. This is our hometown. And I believe there is nowhere better in the world than where you are today. And I'm so proud of being from Fort Worth, of hailing from Fort Worth. I think I'm the first cabinet member actually ever in America from Fort Worth. So it's just been really special. Of course, grew up an hour south of here in the tiny town of 1200 Glen Rose, Texas, where my mom is still, and that's who she represents. So to all of you game changers, it's just really such an honor and a joy to be here and to represent, really what I'm getting to do today. I did not plan to be the Secretary of Agriculture. I have obviously been alongside President Trump for some time now. How I ended up in the first Trump administration, we don't have time to get into, but it was really pretty remarkable. Ended up there running his domestic policy agenda, had completed the process at the end of year 4 of term 1, mapping out what our term 2 agenda was going to be. I think, Lisa, you were in my office a couple times in the West Wing. You kind of helped us build that, as did others. I believe so sincerely that what Trump 1 represented was the opportunity, and in fact, the proof positive, that if you fight every day for the constitutional order, if you fight for God and our scripture every single day, if you put the country first, if you believe in the American people and the American dream, and you roll back the heavy hand of government, that we can, in fact, save this country. If you work together with our partners in the states where the real innovation is happening, you can, in fact, save this country. And when I agreed to go in Trump 1, and it was a very difficult decision for my family, I had at the time a 3rd grader, 5th grader, 6th grader, and 8th grader here in Fort Worth at a great school. And in fact, when the president called a couple times, this was 2017, I declined. I said, I just can't do it. I was running the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Everyone lean on your state-based conservative think tanks because they can help you change everything for the better. Running TPPF in my 15th year after having worked for Governor Perry. But ultimately, after a lot of prayer and discussion, my family, my mom moved with the kids and I to DC, where we homeschooled, and the rest, as they say, is history. I say all of that because as I left for Washington with my family in early 2017, everyone, the common thought was, and if y'all remember Trump year one, the wheels, were kind of wobbling. A few of them fell off. People were getting fired by tweets. I mean, it was lots of good things were happening, but it was slightly chaotic. And so I watched that from here in Texas and stood by to help in whatever way I could. And the Texas model that Rick Perry built and Greg Abbott now carries on, that Texas model was the reason that I was recruited to that first White House, that in fact, we can put a policy agenda together that is forward leading, that is for the people, that rolls the government back, that puts the American dream first. We had proven that here in Texas. And so taking that policy to that first Trump White House and building the team in the first Trump White House and building the agenda. When I went, everyone for the most part said, well, I don't know that it's going to be that useful because, well, first of all, we don't even know how the term's going to go. There'd been a lot of chaos, there at the beginning, but also because Washington is indeed so broken. And you all know this, that the years and years under both Republicans and Democrats of the growth of government, of the weaponization of government, of the increasing of the taxes, you all know the story, had taken the government to a place where many people didn't know that it could be ever deconstructed, that freedom could drive the day again. And I didn't know that either. But what I did know is a businessman from New York City who came from a gold-plated penthouse, and I've been there, it is gold-plated, had been at the top of the building in New York, downtown, Trump Tower, that he came down that escalator and he talked about draining the swamp. And in Texas, we had talked about that too. We didn't use quite the fun language. We said deregulation. And no one ever seemed that excited about it. But I saw a man whom I had never met, a reality TV star, a billionaire, come down that escalator, talk about draining the swamp, actually win an election, touch people that never had participated in the political process before who came to vote for him. And I believed in my heart, and I thought God's hand is on that man, and God's hand is on this country, and God has not given up. And if this is the opportunity to take it back, then I'm going to run full speed toward that fire and do everything I can to help him. So ended up Trump won. That final year of Trump won worked to build out what I believed we didn't have at the beginning of Trump won, the beginning of Trump 2.0 would need. And that was a full policy agenda, healthcare, education, securing the border, foreign policy, all of the things that so many of you work on every day. That if we put that agenda together, that when Trump 2 started, which for me and all of us, we all assumed would be November 4th of 2020, the day after the election, that really we could build on Trump 1, lowest poverty, highest jobs. I mean, you all know the record of that, but we were just getting started. And so November 3rd comes along. I'm sure we've got friends from Pennsylvania in the room. That night, I'm in the East Wing with the president. We're up by 1 million votes in Pennsylvania that night of the election. And we all know that it began to slowly and then at rapid speed slip away. So in looking at that and understanding that and working to fight for our country and trying to figure out were those 4 years of Donald Trump and our administration from 2017 to 2020, was that all for nothing? We had built this agenda. We had proved the founding fathers' vision correct, that under any circumstance, the fight for freedom is always, always the priority. But at the end of it, had we really just been a moment in time, a pause, as America continued to march toward socialism, toward tyranny, and toward the great destruction of the greatest country in the history of civilization. And little did we know in those dark, dark moments that not only was that not true, that not only would we get a second chance, that not only would we reach new and different voters, as Governor Perry said, that not only would we build a big tent, that not only would we have an agenda for all of the people, not for just certain segments of the people, that for the first time in many, many years, perhaps in our lifetime, we were going to go back to a White House. We were going to go with an agenda. We were going to go with a mandate. When you win every swing state and what many thought was impossible to win the popular vote, that at that moment in time, that God had given this country another chance. And I say all that to underscore that when I got the call about being the Secretary of Agriculture and serving in this president's cabinet, that I will be the first to admit that was not on my bingo card. I tell people a lot, and some of you may have heard this, forgive me, but for 4 years, the first 2021, there weren't many of us going to Mar-a-Lago and Bedminster and sitting with the president. And for me, at the beginning of that year, it was about how do I ensure that his legacy and these ideas live on forever? And then as he began to consider and think about re-entering and not giving up, and he had so much left to do, then our conversations began to pivot. And as they pivoted in about 2022, 2023, I realized that the late night phone calls and the early morning, I had one this morning about 6 a.m., the early morning phone calls, that as he was working through in his mind, if he were to win again, not only what he would work to achieve and to finish what he started, but who the team should be around him to get that done. I think we all know this as leaders, and especially those of you who are elected. You can be the most amazing person in the room, but if you don't have the right team around you, none of it matters. And so for President Trump to be thinking about who that right team was, even back to 2022, 2023, and even into the election year of 2024, I have a big whiteboard in my home office tucked away. And I began to write names down. Every time he say, well, what do you think about if we win? What do you think about so-and-so for Secretary of State? Or what are we thinking about so-and-so over at Interior? And I started listing all the names so that every time he called, I'd have the list in front of me and we'd keep talking it through. And so that the point of all that is nowhere on the whiteboard was Brooke Rollins. That name was nowhere under any title, under anything. And mainly because I had kids still here in Fort Worth and it just wasn't going to be part of the plan. But so I often say that sometimes President Trump and God have other plans for you than you have for yourself. And so I was announced on November 23rd, 2024 as the 33rd Secretary of Agriculture. I realized that my work wasn't done yet either. And I realized that, talk about full circle, Rick Perry, the opportunity to fight for and represent our farmers and our ranchers in rural America. Everything to that point, God had been preparing me for this job. Without a strong rural America and without a strong opportunity and market for our farmers and our ranchers, there is no future United States of America for our children and our grandchildren. And all of those years in working in Texas and building policy organizations and working in the last White House and helping build policy agendas, all of it was in preparation for this moment to help this president and our cabinet to achieve what many thought was impossible just 4, 5, 8, 10 years ago. And that is to return the power to the people. In my final few minutes, let me say this. We have been just about 2 miles from here for almost a year. The great church, our church, Christ Chapel, been studying the book of Exodus. Obviously, the second book of the Bible, one that, frankly, I had not spent that much time in. Spent a lot of time in, the key New Testament, and spent a lot of time in Galatians and Colossians and some of the other Isaiah, some of the other great parts of the book, but I hadn't spent that much time in Exodus. And as we started diving in and studying and praying and really understanding God's word and the moments that he continued to call Moses to be a leader for the people, and how that started with God kind of tapping Moses on the shoulder and saying, Moses, I need you to lead my people to the promised land. And every time God would tap Moses, oh no, God, it's not my time. It's not for me. 2 million people is a lot of people to worry about. Got a family. I got all these things going on. God said, no, it's you. No, God, no, it's not me. It's go find somebody else. Then finally, we all know God lit the bush on fire, the burning bush, and said, hello, Moses, would you please pay attention? And Moses said, yes, sir. I will heed your call, and I will meet my moment, and I will do what you have called me to do. This year, especially, that word hits me so hard almost every day as I think about not just me, but I think about my fellow cabinet members. For those of you that are paying close attention and watching our 3 and 4 hour cabinet meetings on TV, I hope that you have seen something special. I hope that you have seen perhaps for the first time a cabinet that loves each other, that is family, that works together for the common good, that knows nothing of what's next, only of what is right now in this moment at this time, and that is saving this country. I hope that as all of you work and plan and sweat and have to do all the things you do as state legislators and state policy leaders, as God is tapping you on the shoulder. And there are days, my friends, where I know you feel it too. My goodness, I'd really love to, be at the book club tonight. Really love to go have lunch with all my friends. But as God has tapped you on the shoulder, and maybe for some of you lit a proverbial, maybe metaphorical bush on fire, and answer my call. Meet your moment. Go fight for your country. Save America. Put freedom and liberty first. Understand that without your work and without your leadership and without your calling, this country will fall. And there goes with it the rest of the world. But with the light always outshining the dark, with all of you leading the way, with your partnership next to us in this great Trump administration, I know, I believe, and I feel it with every fiber of my being that we will save this country, and we will do it because of the people in this room. God bless you. God bless America, and God bless this great organization. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage ALEC National Chairman, West Virginia Senator Patricia Rucker.
Thank you, Secretary Rawlings. Wow, that's kind of a hard act to follow. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this week. As we end this summit, I'm also ending my service as ALEC National Chair. It has been such an honor. I can't believe the year is already over. When Lisa asked me to be the 2025 National Chair, I thought that's a really big job for little old senator from little West Virginia. But honestly, it's been easy. And it's been easy because of how amazing an organization ALEC is. ALEC is strong thanks to the hard work of all staff members, all of public sector members, all of the private sector members, and everyone that joins together to find solutions to the problems we face across this nation. From the annual meeting in Indianapolis to the state chair fly-in in Washington, to all the model policy discussions and the academies throughout the year, it has been a joy to serve as your national chair. Now it is time for me to pass the gavel to the next national chairman, Florida Representative Demi Busada. I know Demi has incredible plans for the annual meeting that she'll be in charge of and the organization in the future. I thank you once again for your trust, your time, and your commitment. And now we will pass the gavel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's an incredible honor to step into this role. I'm excited to continue the momentum. I know I have big shoes to fill. I will see you all in Florida next year. I know I've heard a little complaints here and there about Florida in July, but don't worry, there is a lazy river. I've seen people do meetings from their inner tubes. It's fine. But don't forget, we are the free state of Florida. So gentlemen, please leave your Speedos at home. So see you next July.
Congratulations, Demi. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for our successful States and Nation Policy Summit. Thank you to our sponsors for making it possible. But do not forget, we still have task forces this afternoon. And as we approach the 250th anniversary of our great country, remember that we have an essential policy solution for the great next year we're going to have ahead. Also available on the ALEC website. The fate of America rests on what we can accomplish in the states. So remember, and thank you for all that you do. God bless.